Peace be with you. This is a short collective worship on the theme of keeping going against all the odds. Now, one of my favourite children's books is this one here, The Snail and the Whale by Julia Donaldson. And if you know this story, then you'll know that there's a part in this story where the snail and the whale get into some difficulty because the whale loses its way. I'm just going to read a couple of pages to you now. But then came the day when the whale lost his way. These are the speedboats running a race, zigging and zooming all over the place, upsetting the whale with their ear-splitting roar, making him swim too close to the shore. And this is the tide slipping away. And this is the whale lying beached in the bay. Quick, off the sand, back to sea, cried the snail. I can't move on land, I'm too big, moaned the whale. And the snail felt helpless and terribly small. The snail felt helpless and terribly small. I don't know if you've ever felt a bit like that, or even if you feel a bit like that at the moment. The snail faced with the task of having to try to help this huge whale, and she didn't know what to do. The snail and the whale had been on this long journey together, but now they're stranded on the beach, and it seems as though it's all down to the snail to try to help. But can she do it? Can she keep going? Such a tiny snail, such a big whale, such a wide beach. But the snail keeps going. Now, when we're faced with a task that's really difficult, that we don't know where to turn, it can be overwhelming. I don't know if you can think at the moment of a time when you faced something really difficult in your life. Or maybe you're facing something really difficult at the moment, and it's hard to keep going. But against all the odds, the tiny snail does keep going. She says, I must not fail. And because she's determined to help her friend, the whale. Now, in the Bible, in the Gospel of Matthew, after all of the well-known parts of the Christmas story, where we have the wise men bringing their gifts to Jesus, a bit that we probably know very well, after that, the story continues and it gets harder. An angel appears to Joseph in a dream and says, get up, take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for King Herod is going to search for the child and kill him. So there in the middle of the night, Joseph and Mary and their child Jesus have to get up and get packed and set out on the road on a long, difficult, dangerous journey all the way to Egypt. And they have to stay there for quite some time until it's safe for them to return home. Just think about that for a moment. Imagine you were Mary or Joseph. Put yourself in their shoes. What would it be like? How would you be feeling? Think about all that Mary and Joseph have already been through. The long, tiring journey to Bethlehem, having to find somewhere to stay. Mary in labour, all of the pain and hard work of giving birth to her baby Jesus, and doing that far away from home. They've already been through a lot, and now they've got to try to keep going even more with a dangerous and gruelling journey all the way down to Egypt. It's another example, isn't it, of keeping going against all the odds. And perhaps we might feel a bit like that at the moment. We've all been through one big lockdown last year, having to be off school and having to work at home, and now we're having to do it all again, but this time in the middle of winter where the weather's not very nice. So it's difficult sometimes to think, how can we keep going? But there's something that we can notice both in the story of the snail and the whale and in the way that Mary and Joseph keep going. Because in both of these examples, they don't do it on their own. They're not alone. The tiny snail knows that she can't save the whale just by herself, but that if she works together with others, then perhaps she can. And so that's what she does. She goes to find help, if you know the rest of the story. She goes and finds the children in the local school and uses her skill, which is to make a trail on the blackboard to alert them to the fact that the whale needs help. And so the snail and the children from the school working together, and the firefighters and the emergency services, they all work together to save this enormous whale who's lying there on the beach. And Mary and Joseph as well, they must surely have supported one another on their long, hard journey and as they looked after Jesus. But not only that, actually they weren't alone because God was with them. And in fact, God had been with them all the way through. From the time when the angel appeared to Mary to tell her that she would have a baby who would be from God. The angel appeared to Joseph in a dream. And then they had that long journey to Bethlehem. And then God brought the shepherds to them and the wise men. And then again, God sends the angel to warn them to flee, to go and find a safe place to stay in Egypt. So even through all of that, God was with them. And he's still with them even in Egypt, helping them to keep going against all the odds. So perhaps when we have difficult things that we face, and maybe this lockdown and homeschooling at the moment is a difficult thing, and we sometimes think, well, how can I keep going? Remember, you're not alone. First of all, you can work together with others, with the help and support of others, to help to keep going against all the odds. Maybe at the moment some of that help and support has to be over the phone or the internet, but we can still help each other to keep going. And maybe actually for you, you might be able to help someone else at the moment, someone else who's struggling with their schoolwork or struggling with something hard at the moment. Just like the children in the school helped the snail in our story, when the snail couldn't save the whale by itself. So we can work with others and help others when we find it hard to keep going, but we can also ask God to help us through a difficult time. Because even in the hardest times that we face, God is still with us and God helps us to keep going. So I'm going to finish by saying a prayer, and if you agree with what I say, then please do join in and say Amen with me at the end. So let's take a moment to be quiet and to think about all that we've heard in this collective worship, and then I'll say a prayer. Dear God, thank you that you were with Mary and Joseph all through their difficult journeys, through the birth of their child Jesus, even as they fled to safety in Egypt. Thank you that you are always with them. And thank you that you are with us even now as well. So please help us in the things that we find hard. Please help us to persevere, to stick with it, and to keep going against all the odds. Amen. Thank you for watching. See you again soon.